The revised draft of the law on political parties has been submitted by the head of the Office of the President of Mongolia, Satwatr, to the Speaker of Parliament, Sandashatr, on April 14th. According to the amendments made to the Constitution of Mongolia in 2019, the Speaker of Parliament stated that the party shall be established in accordance with Article 10 of the Constitution and shall work to propose state-level policies. He also emphasized that the internal organization of the party should be in accordance with democratic principles, with transparent capital and income sources and spending, and that the party organization, operational procedures, financing and conditions for financial support from the state will be determined by law based on the recommendations of the Consultative Council issued after the National Consultative Poll known as Let's Decide. The head of the Office of the President, Satwatr, stated as a part of the 2021-2027 Policy Action Program of the President of Mongolia, laws on political parties and political party financing will be initiated to deepen the reform of political parties, improve ethics and disciplinary responsibility, and make financing more transparent. In January 2022, the President of Mongolia appointed a working group to develop a draft revision to the law on political parties, which consisted of representatives from parties sitting in parliament, other parties, academics, and government organizations, with a focus on the legal reform of political parties as a union of citizens' right to association, established by Order No. 6. Within the scope of his right to initiate legislation, the President of Mongolia has initiated and submitted a draft of the revision of the law on political parties to the Speaker of Parliament. This law has been submitted with 7 chapters and 46 articles. First, there are major provisions to hold political parties accountable. Political parties have reflected on the nomination of the right person with ethics and development policies. Secondly, we are faced with the need to develop political parties as policy institutions. It is necessary to compete with the development policy. There should be a move into this direction. Thirdly, since the issue of open disclosure of political parties' finances is very important, reports are taken, audits are submitted, and the amount of donations is also reflected. Fourth, social group and gender inequalities are taught. We will also promote equality by increasing the participation of people with disabilities. Fifth, the issue of ensuring and strengthening internal democracy of the party was reflected. The draft law on the reformation of political parties has been discussed since last year. During the drafting process of the law, the working group held open discussions with the public, meetings and interviews with representatives from parties sitting in parliament, other parties, academics and government organizations. They also sought opinions on the draft law from all political parties registered in the Supreme Court in May 2022. The proposal of the law was received from all parties with seats in the state parliament and other political parties on April 4th, and according to the law on legislation, the draft law and accompanying legislation were discussed and relevant suggestions were included in the draft at the regular meeting of the Government of Mongolia on April 12, 2023. The draft revision of the law on political parties included several key points. In the first chapter, it outlines the objectives of the law, scope of application, definition of terms, rights and duties of political parties, civil rights to join the party, requirement for democratic internal organization of the party, activities of the party in the online environment, and prohibition in the activities of the party. The second chapter deals with the regulation of the establishment and registration of political parties, registration and the refusal of registration of political parties by the Supreme Court upon a referral by the Central Election Body. The third chapter focuses on the organization of the party structure based on global trends, internal democracy, human rights, gender equality, and pro-participation, as well as working as a policy party. The fourth chapter covers the regulation of considering the activity of the party's inactive, reorganization, termination of the activity of the party, and dissolution of the party. The fifth chapter outlines the conditions and criteria for financial support from the state to political parties, including monetary and non-monetary amounts, distribution, principles of financing, purpose of spending, members' tax, donations, parties' own funds, and income from it. The sixth chapter deals with the responsibility of the parties to make financial reports, submit the reports, conduct an audit, the Central Election Body to scrutinize the reports, publicize them, and account for any errors related to the parties' reports. Other issues are covered in the seventh chapter. The initiators of the law believes that the approval of this draft law will result in an improved legal framework for political parties with increased responsibility, democratic internal organization, transparent funding, and improved rights.